everyone, welcome back to But Why the Reviews. I'm Kate, editor-in-chief of But Why Though, and lead over there for TV, film, and anime, and I'm here with Charles.
Hello.
And today we're reviewing Cyberpunk Edgerunners. I got the chance to screen the first two episodes at PAX West in Seattle like a weekend. I don't know. Time's a concept. I don't know. It at some time in the past I saw it. So I wanted to kind of jump in on kind of what the expectations for the series were before I kind of give the synopsis. So Charles, did you have any expectations for it going in?
Well, to be honest, it was definitely one of those situations where going into it, I feel like my expectations were fairly low. Partly because, like I find a lot of modern cyberpunk is like, oh, we're gonna be doing, body modding, weird mohawks, but not really talking about what cyberpunk is.
Yeah.
And then on top of that, it has the name Cyberpunk 2077 on it. So like that whole can of worms kind of comes along. So yeah, my expectations weren't too grand, but I mean it is Studio Trigger. So, which,
Yeah.
they're behind Darling in the Franxx, one of my favorites. So I figured, there was hope. But how about you? What were you thinking?
I mean, for me, so I was very excited because not only is a Studio Trigger, but it is very specifically Hiroyuki Miyashi who did Kill la Kill, Gurren Lagann, and my favorite Promare, which if you know what Gallo and Leo look like, that is pretty much what Lucy and David look like. Trigger has a type. I'm not gonna complain. I love it. So for me, it was one of those where like I agree with you. I've also been kind of, I don't want to say turned off, but like just worried with the new wave of cyberpunk as a genre stuff we've been getting, especially from like outside of Japan. So I was worried, especially with how Cyberpunk 2077 launched. But what I've been able to do is really keep up with how the game has developed and grown and expanded its world. So I was actually really excited for what we could do outside of the game because I read Cyberpunk 2077 Trauma Team, which was their comic, I believe, from Titan, and it was phenomenal. Like it was really good. And so it was one of those where like while there was a rocky start with Cyberpunk 2077, there is a vast world in Night City to kind of dig into, drill into, and see. And I trusted Trigger to do it. Or at the very least, it would be very pretty, and I would really like it because it was very pretty. Thankfully for me, I think I get a little bit of both here. So to give a little bit of a synopsis, the series tells a standalone 10-episode story about a street kid named David Martinez trying to survive in Night City, a technology and body modification obsessed city of the future. Having everything to lose, he stays alive by becoming an edgerunner, a mercenary outlaw, also known as a cyberpunk. That is a super bare bones synopsis. There's a lot that goes on here, and a little bit about the animation itself. CD Projekt Red, the company behind Cyberpunk 2077 video game, is producing the series with Rafal Jaki, who worked on The Witcher 3, Wild Hunt, and 77, as well as Richard Ronan as showrunner and executive producer, with Satoru Homa, Bart Cybor, and Saya Elder serving as producers as well. The team at CD Projekt Red has been working on this new series since 2018 with Japanese-based animation company Studio Trigger. Hiroyuki Imiyashi, who, like I said, Gurren Lagann, Kill la Kill, and Promare, directed the series along with creative director Hiromi Wakabayashi, who did Kill la Kill, and character designer and animation director Yo Yoshinari, who was on Little Witch Academia and BNA. BNA is another Netflix original anime, and the adapted screenplay was written by Yoshiki Usa, who did Gridman Universe as well as Promare, and also has Masahiko Atsuka on that screenplay as well, who worked on Star Wars Visions: The Elder. And it has the composer from the Silent Hill series, Akira Yamaoka. Like, this is a stack. Like, I just want to start by saying this is stacked. Like, I think a lot of people who don't watch anime are going to come into this to watch it because of Cyberpunk 2077 as a property. And I need you, if you are listening to this video, to understand how stacked this is in terms of creative power. And I think that it really serves it. What were some of like your immediate reactions once you finished the series, Charles?
Um, my immediate reactions. Well, I really enjoyed it. I thought that while like it's a little tough because they're up like by the time I got to like episode 3, I feel like I was like, okay, I know what this series is going to do.
Yeah.
And it does it. But it does it really well. I really liked it. I wish that like there's a there's a space between episode 6 and 7. I wish there was a little like it jumps so hard that I'm like I feel a little lost. I almost hope maybe like we could get like a episode 6.123 that's like a comic series or something just
Yeah.
to help. But overall it was really good. It I mean the characters were really awesome in it. I think were what really sell me. Characters is always a big thing for me.
Yeah.
And shockingly enough, like the biggest surprise for me, and I don't know how much you remember about things I've talked about and stuff that they'll say something, but like my favorite character in this show is Rebecca, which is like
I thought
so
it was gonna be Lucy.
huh?
I thought it was gonna be Lucy.
I would too, but this like the first half of the show, I'm like, okay, she's Harley Quinn. I'm
Yeah,
like,
that's who
okay,
she that is the best that is the best way to sum up
but
who
but
Rebecca
but
is.
Rebecca is like the best version of Harley Quinn that I feel like you usually don't get in a lot of stuff. So like, and especially
Yeah,
like the back half, she's the biggest reason why I wish they didn't do such a big time jump because she changes so much. I'm like, what has happened?
yeah,
But yeah, I like I really yeah, there's some it feels a bit rushed. I almost feel like episodes 1 through 6 is season 1 and 7 through 10 is like the last 4 episodes of a season 2.
yeah,
But aside from that, even with a little bit of jarriness in that middle ground, it's still really good. I really got invested in the characters. Um yeah, yeah,
yeah.
it was
I really agree too. I am in love with this series in a way that I'm really happy they hit the cyberpunk notes I needed them to hit, which was class inequality and how technology is seen as a savior for David, but also the very reason why things go very, very wrong.
yeah.
Like it is both his reason to succeed and his reason to fail. And I think that there are two things that happen with David that I really appreciate. One, from the cyberpunk perspective, we really get that like scathing take of capitalism where it kind of sits in on people and it imposes class structures. And then you also like, which meant a lot to me as like a Latina, like seeing how David is working within his familiar structure and like the importance and stress that his mother is pushing on him to go for her dream, but also understanding that your parent is sacrificing for you so that you don't have to sacrifice the way that they do, which like that is my family structure. And sometimes we make choices that make our parents disappointed in us, and that hurts. And what I appreciate is that we go from a really intimate story about a boy and his mom to a very like high sci-fi, high like Blade Runner, let's take on mega corporation stuff. And it never loses the fact that David is still consistently having to deal with the disappointment he feels that his mom would have in him. And I think that that little core, like, I think he gets really dumb by the end of the series. Like, I'm like, David, what are you doing, baby? Why?
It is
It's
really
very,
tough, especially since because like again, going back to it again, but like because of how it jumps from 6 and 7,
yes,
like everything goes so wrong in the middle of the show, and then it's like, and now we're doing it again, only this time
exactly.
with you.
And it's very Studio Trigger in that it's a loop. Like it is literally like, and that is what Trigger loves to do. Is it starts as characters in one point, puts them through group, and it pulls them back to the first. It puts them through growth, and then puts them back to the start in a changed way. And I think that it executes that well. But my review that's up on the site right now, which you can find linked down below, I gave it an 8.5. And it's because of the jump. It is because that time jump, it feels empty. And I think that, like, with how good the characters are and how well a lot of the larger themes are pulled off, it makes the time dump more noticeable because and obviously this is spoiler free, but there are a lot of emotional moments in those last 4 episodes that I don't feel get the buildup that they deserve. And even to a point, like the stuff with Maine that happens, I don't feel like that buildup has enough time to like pay off because it's kind of confined to 1 episode. That while I did feel like I went on an emotional journey, I think a lot of the big swings that they take for lack of plot armor for some characters, it just gets kind of watered down because I don't have that like years that we're missing from David's story. Like, how does he get from kid with 1 implant to kid to man who is pretty much on the verge of like cyberpsychosis? And I think that like missing that piece, like I feel like this is another victim of the Netflix episode order where
Yeah.
it's like, please, like if they had 13 episodes, like I'm not even asking like for a full 24 like episode anime here, like just give me your standard 12, 13 one-shot anime seasons, and I think that this could have gone a lot further. And it isn't to say that it's bad, it's just to say that like it is so good in so many of its parts. Missing that middle bit of the story
I
hurts it.
mean, I don't even think that like it even, unless I missed something, like it doesn't even clearly define how much time has
It
passed.
doesn't.
Like it
It
could have been a
doesn't.
week, it could have been a year, like
It had to have definitely been over
and
a week and a
well,
year
yeah, but I
just
mean,
because Homeboy gets real big.
yeah. Oh, well, I mean, yeah, I mean,
But
obviously it's
yes,
longer
no,
than
no, no.
that,
I
but like,
completely agree.
it's one
Like
of those like,
it's undefined time.
yeah, it's just like it
Completely
could be any,
undefined.
yeah, exactly. Like that's kind of rough. Also, like I wish that if they had like a few more episodes, or if they could have done like had 2 different seasons, like I would have loved to have gotten like a Kiwi and a Rebecca episode, just
Yeah.
like explaining, even if it was like, flashbacks for them, so nobody else still knows, but you just know where they
Yeah.
come from, because like this seems like there's so much story there, and like because like Kiwi seems to have some sort of connection to Falco beyond what everyone
Mm-hmm.
else does, but I don't know exactly what that
I
is.
want to see Kiwi Falco romance. Like I really do. I want that side story. Like I completely agree. And I think that is both a fault of I think Trigger does really well with side characters. And I think video games in general, and from what I hear, Cyberpunk 2077
Has
does
a couple of them
that
at least.
2077 does really good with side characters. And so it's kind of like this isn't a video game and I can't choose to go down the path for these people.
Yeah.
Like, can you give me more? Because they are so well done. I think I actually don't think that there is a single character that's done badly, but I think the one who suffers the most from needing to know more of his Maine, because you start to see that something pushed him to the point where he thought that body mod was the only thing he could do, but you never really get a clear sense of exactly what that was.
Yeah.
And I think that really hurts because he is such a powerful narrative piece of Edgerunners, and specifically in David's journey. Like I think David is really impacted by 2 people, and it's his mother and it's Maine. As much as he loves Lucy, like it really is Gloria and Maine who kind of set him and towards his path of like where he goes and how he kind of internalizes trauma and how he acts on it. That it just kind of hurts. And all of that could have been solved with a bigger episode order. I am hoping that there are like comic tie-ins for this. Like I would pick them all up. I would buy physical copies. Give me like work with like I don't know what mangaka they could work with, but like work with a mangaka and give me a cyberpunk manga to go with this. Like I would eat it up.
Yeah.
Like
I
yeah.
mean, or even a monthly from Dark Horse or Image or something.
Yeah. I there's so much you could do. And I think that that's really like it is really good. I really love it. And I want that to be like the first thing that, like, if you have my face, it says Kate loves Cyberpunk Edgerunners. But I also want to say that just like I feel like they left a little bit on the table. Like they didn't run away with the whole bag. And I think that like I want to see more animation, whether it's with Trigger or with anybody else. Like, I want to see more from the Cyberpunk 2077 universe. And I think that that's probably one of the largest takeaways that you can get from doing a project like this is wanting people to be more invested in your world. Because I haven't really had many moments where I've been like, oh, I really want to go pick up 2077. Trauma Teen started it, but the Edgerunners really solidifies. I'm like, oh, I actually want to go explore this. And they're adding like stuff from Edgerunners into it, which is really exciting to see. And I think having
And
an
you can get like the
ecosystem of
jacket.
games. Yes, you can get the jacket. And apparently like so I did look it up. Pre the series, David Martinez was the name of a drink in Cyberpunk that was apparently named after like famous edge runners or whatever.
Okay.
So that kind of comes full circle.
Oh.
But I don't know. I think that I'm in this weird spot with it where like I really want more. I also think that like this is peak Studio Trigger. But that also comes with the faults that Studio Trigger usually has, which is in the back halves of their stuff, they tend to get a little sloppy with where the story is going to get to an endpoint. But it is gorgeous.
Well, I said they do know
Like
how to animate a monomolecular web.
they really do. They really do. It's amazing. And I think like I've talked a lot about David. We've talked about some of the side characters. I do also want to give Lucy her shine. Like
Yep.
also I wanted more of Lucy. Like I wanted more of like what that facility was.
My
And
my only issue with Lucy is that, like there's that portion of the series where like she has her secret that she can't tell. And then you find out what it is, and it was like, why couldn't you tell him that? Like,
yeah,
I don't understand why that had to be a secret. Like, why this was like this big, huge thing. Because I thought it was like some dark thing, either about her or something to do with him that like maybe had something to do with why he was special or something. And then it's like,
yeah,
oh, that's it. I think you could have told him that and not put yourselves through all this.
a little bit.
But yeah, but I mean, I did. Yeah, I really liked her. I mean, it was a little tough because like going like as you're signing it, you're like, okay, I see you. I know who you are. You're in like every series like this.
Manic Pixie Dream
But they
Girl.
def
Like that's who she starts off as.
Yeah, it's like, okay, yeah, the boy's gonna meet you and you're gonna draw him into this seedy world because you're hot. Okay. But they do a good job with expanding on her a little bit, giving her a little bit more story than just I'm the chick that dragged the dude into this world.
Yeah.
For sure. But yeah, I feel like she's the one in the back half that's hurt the most
Yeah.
because of how
She
they
is.
treat her. It's like, oh, I don't do this. Let this,
Yeah. I
But
will say, like, or I guess the net runners, which if you don't know the cyberpunk like world, net runners are the people who essentially do all of the hacking and have had the body mogs to make them like immediately accessible to electronics and like other people's implants and like that type of stuff. Like the brain is a computer, they can tap it. She's a net runner, and I thought that like there are a lot of examples of what makes Trigger such an iconic studio, whether it's them showcasing speed of I forget what it's called, but his back in planet,
yeah,
whatever that is, like when he activates that, he moves really fast. Whether it's that or it's the explosions or it's just like really knowing how to use neon and saturate, like heavy color saturation, they get it. But what I think really showcased Trigger's versatility, because I think a lot of the time Science Saru gets praised for how many different styles it can do at one time. And I think Trigger, what they really showed with the piece where Lucy was taking over for Kiwi and getting information from Tanaka, and she enters his brain. the way that it's just black and white animation with really harsh lines, it really showed kind of the depth that Trigger has when they do animate sequences. And I think I appreciated that section the most out of the series so far as like being beautiful and like showing what Trigger can do, because it was very different than what they historically have done and then what they did a lot in Edgerunners. It was kind of like a, hey, you know that we're this, but we can also do black and white high contrast like puzzles.
Yeah.
So that I appreciated.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I liked the way that they did some when some of the net diving was happening and stuff. I thought that that was definitely visually interesting. Which is always good. It's always important to have that. I mean, there's been so many series that have really pushed that, going all the way back to Ghost in the Shell and stuff, that like
Yeah.
it's just expected that if you're doing net diving, it's got to look ethereal and
Yeah.
kind of weird. And yeah, no, they definitely nailed all the looks, all the design styles, and like the way they did vehicle. Like the whole world is definitely really well fleshed out. Definitely looks like what I expect of a cyberpunk setting in all the ways. While at
Yeah.
the same time not being just like cabin copy. It has its own looking stuff for
Yeah.
sure. But
Um,
yeah, no, it's definitely yeah.
yeah. And I think one of the things that I really appreciated was they Trigger and like the way that they animated and really highlighted things is it showed in like in one frame you could see like the beauty of technology, the beauty of the world. And then you could also see them drawing like really ugly stuff too, like just like visually ugly, like in the same frame. Like in the opening episode where David's like walking through the street and you see like this beautiful like whale going through the side, like through the sky, and then it like pans down and you just see like really ugly stuff. And I think that like that's something that is done really well. I also think one of the interesting things that I thought actually was that the series, the way it used sex, like we see a lot of it, but none of it means anything. We only see it when it doesn't mean anything because we don't see anything actually happen between Lucy and David. Like it's implied there. And I think that that's interesting. It was an interesting choice, I guess, for me. Because like I don't know, it
Yeah,
almost like
the only
the
scene where like
emotions
they
left
really
out.
stacked to go there was with Maine and Borio.
Yeah,
It was that one scene, which
yeah,
I thought the way they're, at least, from my point of view, I thought the way they handled those two was really cool, that they
yeah.
had them the way they were and stuff. And
I
like there was
loved their dynamic.
yeah.
It was really good because there was like mutual respect. And Dario was also like just as big as him, which I loved. Like it was just amazing.
Yeah.
Um, and I want more of their relationship, like we've said with everything.
Right. Yeah.
But yeah, and I think that that's like one of the interesting things, which I think a lot of people, um, the way sex is used as a narrative device, I don't think gets touched on a lot. Castlevania did it really well. House of the Dragon's doing it right now. I don't think Edgerunners does it at all so much as like they threw it in to showcase how much it's devalued, but then they kind of didn't highlight it when it would mean something, which I, I think there could have been like more talk about that stuff instead of just throwing it in.
Yeah.
Like thematically for a cyberpunk universe, like what means something and what doesn't. But overall, I actually appreciated it, which I think that is probably the one thing I'm interested to see people, and I think could throw people off or make them uncomfortable. But I liked it. I think to kind of wrap up, is there anything that you think we missed in this review? Obviously, spoiler free, but anything you think we
Um,
missed?
I don't think so. I mean, character's great, story, some rough patches, but ultimately it lands the big notes pretty well. So,
Yeah,
as long as you can just kind of stitch together the missing elements, I think that it manages to pack a punch for those 10 episodes, even if it really could have used another 5 to 10. But
yeah.
And like you said, I mean, like the world we live in, it feels like it might have originally been intended to be more, but orders are what they are, and do you leave it hanging and never get a season two, or
Yeah,
who knows? But so that's always really tough to judge a studio on these days. But
yeah,
yeah, I mean, overall, I would definitely, I mean, I think you said, 8.5, and I would definitely put it there. I could see where for some people it could be a 9 or a 10. I can see where it would be a 7.5 or an 8 for
yeah.
others, depending upon if it's character you want or if it's a smooth narrative. If it's just character, there's so much to love. Like I said, Rebecca's a violent joy that I really got
She
into, and
is.
she deserves so much better.
Oh, yeah. And I'm right there with you. I agree. I think that this is gonna have its audience. I think what I'm excited for is, I will say it right now, if you have never watched anime before, if you never watched other Trigger stuff before, and you really like Edgerunners, go watch Promare. I believe it's on HBO Max. Pay $3.99 to rent it on Amazon. I don't care. Go watch it. Promare is one of the best animated films that has come out. It is there's mechs, there's like, it's heavy science fiction. It's really great. It's also queer, which is also dope. And it really showcase, like, that's probably one of the solidifying pieces of what that is probably where Trigger has pushed themselves the most to do with color and animation techniques, is Promare. So everybody should watch that. And I think that you can definitely see that the team from Promare worked on this in the best parts of everything. At least that's how I feel. But yeah, I'm sitting at 8.5. I wish that I could give it more. Part of me wanted to give it more, but the fact that it feels like I'm missing a chunk. And that is both a issue, but also a credit to how good everything is in it, that it's making me want more. So yeah, I guess, would you tell people to go watch this?
Oh no, absolutely. I would definitely say that people should go watch this. It's I think that it like you kind of said, I think it hits like a sweet spot for like if you're new to anime, like it's very like there's enough of the classic cyberpunk that if you have done, the more Western cyberpunks, if you're a Shadow Runner from back in the day, or
Yeah,
Blade Runner, or I struggle with with names now. But like any of those sorts of things, I would definitely say worth checking out. Or like, if you like, even just like if you like that sort of body modding, Alita, like if you enjoyed that movie, I would
yeah,
say that's definitely something that would be connectable here for sure. It has that same like, us versus them, the people in the high rises and everyone else feeding off of the scraps. Yeah, I mean it's there's the yeah, I mean like the only thing that I would say, I mean like it is definitely, it's got the big M rating in the top left and the reasons why. So like if
yeah,
those things don't, if you're not comfortable with that, like there is some moments where it's like, okay, that happened.
yeah. It's a
But
lot.
oh
And like right
yeah,
off the bat too, like immediately, it's a
yeah,
lot.
I mean, yeah, like yeah, I mean his first walk to school, it's like, oh, that's happening on the sidewalk. Okay, cool. Um, but yeah, no, it's really good. I was very impressed by it. Despite a few flaws. I would like if I found out they were making more, or if that somehow they were going to fill in that gap, I would 100% check it out. Even though I've
Yeah,
already seen it, I will definitely watch it once it again, just so that it's on my account, so somebody else watched it again, so they know I
yeah,
like this stuff, and hopefully we'll get more in that same ilk. But
yeah.
we'll see.
I agree. Everybody should watch it. It's a lot of fun. I mean, watch it after you read the M rating stuff, because it the violence is really in there, which I really like. Because I really like it when people don't hold back on the violence, but also don't lose the story, which is what they really pull
Yeah.
off.
Yeah, I mean,
Um,
they definitely pull it off. There is a couple of points in it, like that opening sequence when like the guy gets shot in the car with the shotgun and somehow like the blood is geysering through the roof. Like
yeah.
it's like, okay, that's a little much. But the classic anime high pressure 90% blood body is
Yes.
something anime does.
It is anime. Anime is gonna anime.
Absolutely.
But yeah, I think everybody should watch it. I think everybody should watch Promare after they watch this. But I really think overall, like the biggest thing for me, and I think I said it earlier in this review, is I want more. Like I want either more of David's story or I just want more in this universe. I want Sugar to do it. But if I can't get Sugar, I will just take it, whatever it is. So keep it coming, CD Projekt Red. You at least have like me and Charles because it's good. But
Oh.
yeah, Charles, why don't you tell everybody where they can find you?
You can find me on Twitter. I am at Gatsu083. That's pretty much the only social media I'm rocking on these days.
And you can find me on Twitter at Oh My Myth Randier. It's where I'm currently reviewing Lord of the Rings, Rings of Power, and House of the Dragon weekly. I will be reviewing Chainsaw Man. Charles reviews I point that way. Charles reviews uh, a lot of anime. Which anime are you covering right now for this season? It's
At the moment, I'm doing monthly reviews for the Yakuza's Guide for Babysitting, and Shine On Bakamatsu Bad Boys, and the new Ruby Ice Queendom series. I will also later this month have season reviews for Licorice Recoil, which has been the most amazing, fun buddy cop but high school girls anime. If you're into the gun girl genre, definitely. And I'm also reviewing Engage Kiss. That I'll be doing a season series review of that. And then next fall, I'm going to be doing at least a few, but I'm not sure yet exactly how much because fall is stacked for the anime fans. So yeah.
Awesome. Oh, and if you want to see where I review manga and like specifically anime, Omer with Randier on Instagram, and you can hit us up in the Discord, discord.gg/but why though, to get in on the conversation immediately after you close this video. So yeah, oh yeah, like and subscribe and do the things. I don't know where to point or where my video guy is gonna
Ring
put stuff.
bells, do stuff.
Yes, do things. Bye.